So hello everyone, let's solve MEXT.Math.B 2014 question 1.1. Fill in the blanks with the correct numbers. If the equation, this equation over here, equals 0, with k a constant, has two solutions, sine of theta and cosine of theta, then theta is equal to, okay, so look, it has two solutions, okay? Remember, what is the condition for something to have two solutions? Well, for a quadratic function to have two solutions, well, the delta, right? It's the delta that says if delta is bigger than 0, then we will have two solutions. If delta is equal to 0, then we will have one solution. If delta is smaller than 0, then we will have only imaginary solutions, right? So we want two real solutions, so delta must be bigger than 0. And the second thing is that these solutions are sine and cosine, so we can use some trig relations too. Now, how do we go on solving this? Well, he is telling us for sure that this has two solutions, okay? So look, if you remember, what can be the solutions? Well, minus b plus or minus the square root of delta divided by 2, right? So what am I going to do is that I'm going to call x1 the first solution. I'm going to call it minus b plus the square root of delta divided by 2a. And I'm going to call x2 the second solution, minus b minus delta divided by 2a, okay? So now let's see the relation to x1 plus x2. So x1 plus x2 is this, x1 is this, right? X1 is this, and x2 is this, right? So let's sum them up together. So minus b plus delta divided by 2a, and then plus minus b minus the square root of delta divided by 2a. So x1 plus x2 is equal to what? Well, minus b is equal to minus 2b plus square root of delta minus square root of delta is 0, right? So we'll have minus 2b divided by 2a over here, okay? They already have the same base. So x1 plus x2 is equal to minus b divided by 2a. Minus b divided by a, the two cuts over here, okay? So a. So this is the first relation. This has numbers. This thing that I'm trying to deduce, they have a name, okay? And it is really important for max, okay? So I think it's written like this: relations of Girard, something like this, okay? If you want to look them up. The second relation that we are going to find is x1 multiplied by x2. So it's equal to what? Minus b plus square root of delta divided by 2a. This multiplied by minus b minus square root of delta divided by 2a. So what is this multiplying this? What are we going to have? Well, x1 multiplied by x2, and I know that I'm just like, you should know these relations and use them like immediately, but I'm deducing them, okay? I think it's good. So in the upside, so we'll have that this is minus goes in the outside, so delta minus b squared just multiply this part by this part. Okay, if you do this, it's like the trick I did was like this. Look, for this part, so that I can multiply it fast, I did delta because it's minus b, and then here I took the minus outside and I took that b, I took it like delta plus b, and then I multiplied them. Okay, so this is what I did over here. So, and divided by 4a, right? Divided by 4a squared. So remember, what was delta? So x1 multiplied by x2 is equal to minus, now delta is b squared minus 4ac minus b squared. Okay, so the b squared will cut, and then we will have that the minus will become plus, divide by 4a squared, right? So x1 multiplied by x2 is equal to 4ac divided by 4a squared. So x1 multiplied by x2 is equal to c divided by a. Okay, there are 4 cuts and the squared. So these are the relations that we need to use. And another thing that, like, something that you need to remember is that sine of theta squared plus cosine of theta squared. I don't even know if we are going to use this, but it's always good to remember it if you didn't remember it. Okay, so now let's go to what he's telling us. So he's telling us that the solutions, one of them is sine of x and sine of theta, and the other is cosine of theta. So look, in this relation over here, I'm going to call it relation 1. Okay, so let's cut relation 1 and take it. Over here in relation 1, so we have that sine of theta plus cosine of theta, because he's telling us that one of the answers is sine and the other one is cosine. He told us this is equal to minus b divided by a. So what were b and a's? Well, let's write it over here. Here. I need some space, so let me just cut this, put it over here. Okay, so let's write it over here. Square root of 2 x squared. The square root of 2 is going to be a minus square root of 3, which is representing b, plus k is equal to 0. So look, this one, let's take now the minus b. Well, it's minus square root of 3, so square root of 3 divided by a, square root of 2. So this is a relation. Now the second relation we had is this one over here. So sine of theta multiplied by cosine of theta is equal to c divided by a, right? So c is k and a is square root of 2. Okay, so what can we do now? Well, look, we have these two relations. Okay, and we want to find the k. So in this relation over here, I'm going to take both sides but squared. What do I mean by this? Let me just put it in another color over here. This, now we are going to play with these purple equations, okay, with the purple ones. So the first purple one, sine of theta plus cosine of theta. I'm going to take it squared over here and over here squared, okay, is equal to 3 divided by 2. Now you might ask, why am I thinking about taking it squared? Number one, because here we have square roots and it's not cool to play with them, and because of this relation over here, okay, sine squared, if I get sine squared and cosine squared, I can get rid of them by a 1. So this is something that you get used in by studying trigonometry, okay? So sine of theta squared plus 2 sine of theta cosine of theta plus cosine of theta squared, all this is equal to 3 divided by 2, okay? So look, the only thing I did was take this squared, okay? So sine of theta squared plus cosine of theta squared, well, it's 1, right? It's 1 plus 2 multiplied by sine of theta multiplied by cosine of theta. But what is sine of theta multiplied by cosine of theta? K divided by the square root of 2. So let's put this in place of this. So K divided by square root of 2. And don't go summing the cosine of theta. Remember, we did sine of theta plus cosine of theta is equal to 1. So this is equal to 3 divided by 2. And look, now we can find our K. So 2K divided by square root of 2 is equal to, now 3 divided by 2 minus 1, which is 1 is 2 divided by 2 is 1. So 2K square root of 2 is equal to 1 divided by 2, okay? Sorry, over here. So K is equal to square root of 2 divided by 4. And this is our answer. We used all the colors already. Square root of 2 divided by 4.